I was 19 at the time, living with my mom in a small two-story house on the edge of a quiet suburban neighborhood. Our house backed up to a patch of woods that stretched for a good couple of miles, so nights were always darker and quieter than anywhere else in town. One Friday night, I was home alone. Mom was at work, doing an overnight shift at the hospital. I had the house to myself, which I always enjoyed. I'd ordered a pizza earlier in the evening and had settled in downstairs with my laptop and headphones. Around 11:30, I was watching YouTube when I heard what I thought was the faint sound of knocking. I pulled my headphones off, paused the video, and sat there. The knocking came again, 3 steady raps. Only this time, it wasn't from the front door. It was from the basement. That made no sense. Our basement had those small rectangular ground-level windows, the kind you can barely crawl through. The sound had clearly come from there. My stomach sank, and I tried to convince myself maybe it was just tree branches or something. But then it happened again. This time, a little louder. 3 sharp knocks. Against every instinct, I went to the basement door, turned on the light, and cracked it open just enough to peek down the stairs. Everything looked normal. Boxes stacked neatly, the laundry machines in the corner, but I noticed something that made my skin crawl. One of the basement windows wasn't reflecting the light like the others. It was darker. Someone was blocking it from outside. I froze, staring down the stairs, when suddenly, bang! The glass shook like someone slammed their fist against it. I screamed and slammed the basement door shut, locking it. My hands were shaking as I dialed 911. The dispatcher kept me calm, but while I was on the phone, I heard the sound of scraping, metal against glass. Whoever was outside was trying to pry the basement window open. I ran upstairs to my room, locked the door, and crouched with my back against the bed. I could still hear the faint screeching of metal from below, then silence. A few minutes later, I heard movement again, but this time from inside the house, the creak of the basement steps. I thought I was imagining it until I heard the unmistakable sound of the basement door handle jiggle, then slowly turn. I couldn't breathe. Just then, red and blue lights flashed through my window. The sound of doors slamming outside broke the silence. I heard the basement door slam shut, then hurried footsteps retreating toward the woods. The police searched, but found no one. What they did find chilled me. The basement window had been forced open just enough for someone to squeeze through. On the dirt outside the window were footprints, bare feet, despite it being almost freezing that night. The police never caught him. To this day, when I'm alone at night, I swear I sometimes hear those 3 knocks echoing in the quiet. I live in a rural area of North Carolina, in a small one-story house I inherited from my grandparents. I love the isolation during the day, but at night, it can feel like the loneliest place in the world. This happened about 3 years ago, in October. It was raining hard that night, and the sound of the storm drowned out almost everything. I had just turned off the TV and was heading to bed when I thought I heard faint knocking at the front door. I checked the clock. 2:13 a.m. I froze. Nobody should be at my door at that time, especially in the middle of a storm. The knocking came again, louder this time. Against my better judgment, I walked quietly to the door and peeked through the peephole. A woman was standing there. She looked maybe mid-30s, soaked from the rain. Her long hair plastered to her face. She wasn't holding an umbrella, wasn't dressed for the weather, just a light sweater and jeans. She was staring straight at the door, but not at the peephole. Her eyes were downcast like she was looking at the doorknob. I didn't say a word, just watched her. After a few seconds, she whispered something. I couldn't hear it at first. I pressed my ear against the door. "Let me in." Her voice was hoarse, almost like she'd been crying. I whispered back through the door. "Who are you?" No answer. Just silence, except for the storm pounding outside. Then a louder knock. Her voice came again, this time firmer. "Let me in." My gut screamed at me to stay quiet. I backed away slowly, praying she would leave. But instead of leaving, she bent down. I could see her through the bottom of the doorframe now, crouching, her head tilted sideways, and she pressed her face against the tiny gap at the bottom of the door. I could see her one visible eye, wide and staring inside. "Let me in." I ran to my bedroom, locked the door, and grabbed the shotgun my grandfather had left me. I called the sheriff's office, explaining what was happening. They said they'd send someone, but It might be a while given the storm. For the next 20 minutes, I heard her pacing the porch. Sometimes she knocked gently, sometimes harder. Once I heard her scrape her fingernails across the wood of the door. And then, silence. When the deputies finally arrived, the porch was empty. But they found muddy, barefoot prints leading away from the house. They followed them with flashlights until the trail ended at the tree line. One of the deputies told me something I'll never forget. He said, "You weren't the first person to call about a woman showing up in the middle of the night, asking to be let in. And every time we get here, she's gone." To this day, whenever it rains late at night, I find myself staring at that door, half expecting her pale face to appear at the bottom gap, whispering for me to let her in. When I was 20, I rented a small 2-bedroom house near my college. It was old, creaky, and had a drafty attic above it. Not long after moving in, I began hearing noises at night. At first, I thought it was just the house settling, until one night I heard a muffled cough coming from the attic. The next day, my friend Chris helped me check. In the corner, hidden behind insulation, we found a blanket, food wrappers, and a notebook. Inside were notes. She leaves at 8:30 every morning. He stays up late in the living room. Sometimes he forgets to lock the back door. It was about me. Someone had been living above me. Weeks passed quietly, and then one night, I woke at 3 a.m. to see the attic hatch slightly open. I locked my bedroom door and called 911, whispering. Minutes later, footsteps crept down the hall and stopped outside my door. The handle jiggled, then silence. When police arrived, the person was gone. But in the attic, the notebook had been moved. A fresh line read, "He knows." I moved out the next day.